No, I'm really pleased on the sort of eve of the end of the year to be joined by George Galloway. Thank you for agreeing
Always a
to speak.
pleasure.
Um, now, for me, the highlight of the year was your victory in Rochdale. I know seems like a long time ago because it was winter. It was like it
Still
is
this
now.
year, yeah. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe, but yeah.
And that victory there, you really terrorised the establishment. I mean, I saw the result. We were outside the result. People were celebrating, and then you went to the headquarters of the campaign, and the media were all crazy to talk to you and trying to catch you out with questions and stuff like that. And I've never seen someone bat away so many of these reporters, and they couldn't deal with it. And there was obviously the next day after that, you had another one
Well,
where,
yeah. I mean, Little Rishi brought his podium out into Downing Street to denounce the result.
yeah,
That's how significant it was.
I know, and the fact that happened, and then they kept on. I felt this was like the most exciting day or two since the heyday of Jeremy Corbyn in maybe 2017, where we thought we were very close to winning a general election. So it's a long time to have some small victory like that. So what? I mean, firstly, I'd like to ask you. Did you see that coming? What? When did you think of standing up there? Was it a long process, or was it a very snap decision?
Well, it's been a year of little victories and big defeats. Mine wasn't the only victory. I think Corbyn's victory in Islington at the general election on the 4th of July was also a significant one. Some of the independent victories, especially in my old stamping ground of Batley and Spen, were significant. Now Batley, Dewsbury, high-flying Labour candidate was defeated there. Uh, I think there have been some little victories, but there have been some big defeats. Keir Starmer's landslide victory is a big defeat for the British working class, for the world actually, because Labour and the United Kingdom that it runs is playing a particularly malignant role in the world, in Gaza, in the Ukraine, in Yemen. All my life we've been killing Yemenis. I mean, when I was a kid, I was watching us killing Yemenis in the Crater district of Aden. I watched Scottish soldiers gunning down Yemenis. And now I'm 70 years old, and last night the British were murdering Yemenis again. It's a sorry tale, but to answer your question, it was sudden, but I'm always ready. I mean, if a by-election were to occur in a propitious place where we are strong or potentially strong, I'd be in that by-election like a terrier immediately. We're always ready. But Tony Lloyd was a friend of mine, God rest his soul. I knew that he was gravely ill, and so I thought that there might be a by-election coming up in Rochdale, and I had a lot of friends there. I'd been speaking there over decades, and I'm often there in that greater Manchester area. Two of my sons live there. My daughter was born there, and for my sins, I'm a Manchester United supporter. So it's not foreign territory to me. So when a by-election unfortunately did happen because of poor Tony's demise, I was ready, and we took it by storm. And it was a great day, a great couple of days. My dressing down of the Sky News fella at the victory party the next night, one of the biggest internet hits I've ever had, with millions, maybe tens of millions of views by now. And I do like turning Sky News reporters upside down and wiping the floor with them.
I mean, the thing about it was there was this spirit of we can show Starmer, and your line that you said when after the result was announced, you said this is
This
for
is for
you,
Gaza.
this is for Gaza. Um, People thought we've got a tide against Starmer and against the Tories, and other people that you mentioned, some of the independents. I mean, they must have thought we've got a good chance because George Galloway's won in Rochdale. Uh, and then there was an attack on you to try and undermine you. People were definitely trying to undermine you.
Sure.
I mean, that sort of momentum with a small m that was built up, I found that so frustrating that people who should know better were not backing you all the way, and the Workers' Party had a fantastic result in the general election, and it could have been even better, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, shocked but not surprised. These things have always happened, and one never quite knows until history is written who these malignant actors really are. Sometimes they turn out to be not what they seem or purport to be. But whether they are or are not actively engaged in the sabotage of alternative political projects, they might as well be. They might as well take the shilling because the end result is just the same. Their purpose is to split and divide and weaken and undermine any and all serious challenges to the hegemony of the people who run Britain, who run the world. Corbyn suffered exactly the same thing. Of course, the hard right Blairites were to be expected to behave as they did. But you wouldn't have on your bingo card that Clive Lewis and Paul Mason and Owen Jones and all these Corbynites would very quickly have moved into the business of sabotaging Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. So there have always been such people. Sometimes they keep on going, like Paul Mason, who's effectively become a CIA talker, or they have moments when they flicker between what they were and what they could be, like Owen Jones, who's recently done a very good piece on bias in the BBC. Such people are sent to trials, but and of course I mean, Freud coined the phrase narcissism of the small difference, and much of the British left, maybe the left as a whole, is in the possession of that narcissism of the small difference. So I might use different pronouns to you. I might have a different view on Love Island to you. That makes you my enemy who must be destroyed. Even though on so many important things, we actually agree. And if we could get our act together, we might actually have a chance of changing things. So that's been the story of the left to date. Might not always be. Maybe one day a group, a person, a set of tactics and strategies will coalesce, will come together and sweep all before it, but maybe not. I think that Britain is in a very difficult situation. Both of the mainstream parties are completely discredited, Labour and the Conservatives. But the rising tide is with Reform, which is the British equivalent of the AfD in Germany. It's the British equivalent of Marine Le Pen in France. It's the British equivalent of Trump. It's Trump plus, but still Trump. That's the rising tide. Right populism is looking like it's unstoppable for this period. We have to develop a left populism, which competes against it in language that the mass of the people can understand and relate to. You know, the perambulations of left-wing people in Britain. I've been on the left in Britain for more than 50 years. You know, on the anti-During program or on the intricacies of the writings and thinkings of long dead Germans and Russians. It doesn't mean a damn thing to 99.9% of the British population. We have a left whose preoccupations, whose style of work, whose style of speaking, whose style of writing, whose style of thinking is so last century, even the century before that. It has nothing to do with the new generation. As things have worked out, I have 5 young children. And my first child has 5 children. So I'm around a lot of young people.
Right.
I know what they think like, I know what they talk like. And it ain't like what you and I talk like and think like. And you're one of the more far-sighted and progressive. It's a kind of parallel universe. And unless we get with that program, you know, John Lennon wrote in the song in the 60s, a song called Revolution, if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't going to make it with anyone anyhow. Well, think 60 years on what the equivalents of that are, and that's where we are as a British left, and it's where we've got to get off that path.
Yeah. Well, I think that your courage, the way you speak out and speak your mind, is something that everyone should respect, and also everyone should try and imitate in some way, or take inspiration from, because worrying what everyone else thinks about what I say is Starmer, and that is a road I don't want to go down. So I think out of the choices of trying to appease everyone or speaking yourself, you are taking the right path.
Well, I think a leader says, this is what I think, here's why I think it, and I'm going over there. I hope you'll follow me. That's what a leader is. Not somebody who sits in a circle and takes the temperature of the views of everybody else in the room and the vocabulary and iconography of everybody else. Our task is to properly analyze the state we're in, what's needed to affect it, and find the words and the spirit to convey it to the maximum number of people so that when you go over there, there's an army behind you. Now, I haven't properly achieved that. Otherwise, you'd be talking to me in Downing Street.
Right.
But I think my approach has been and is still more likely to succeed than that of others. The parameters of the prevailing orthodoxy are far too rigid for us to prosper. If you cannot. So, for example, my slogan, if you want to stop the boats, you need to stop the wars. For me, that, if I may say so, is a pristine distillation of what our attitude to the boats and immigration and race should be. You've no idea how many people focus on the stop the boats. You've no idea how many people describe that couplet that I've just given you as somehow racist or capitulation to Nigel Farage and the rest. You ain't going to make it with anyone anyhow if you think like that. You have to understand that the vast majority of people in the country don't want illegal immigration turning up on our beaches in dinghies. They don't. You can hold as many placards, refugees welcome here, as you like, but you ain't going to make it with the mass of the people. Therefore, you've got to say, stop the boats, or you better stop the wars, because it's the wars and the economic wars that has got the people on the boats in the first place. Otherwise, they could happily live in their own country.
Right. Yeah.
That, I think, is an example of our kind of thinking and our kind of language. Much more likely to succeed than a placard saying refugees welcome here. Trust me on that.
Right. I can see what you're saying. Exactly. Yeah. Well, look, I think it's time you took a break because you've been doing, you do so much on these shows as well. I mean, you need to have a break. So I'll leave the interview here. You can go off and have Christmas with your family and take it easy. Thank you.
I'm glad that your show's going from strength to strength. It was a great idea to rename it, and anything I can do to help, let me know.